What's up everybody, TJ from Tallymark Media, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about the Sony A1. This is TJ from Tallymark Media, and today I'm going to do a little rundown on the Sony A1. Now, I got to use the Sony A1 not too long ago for a wedding. The folks over at Camera Exchange loaned it out to me, and I gotta say I fell in love with it immediately. I knew some specs about it, and I had seen that Sony was coming out with a new camera body, so I did my research, but it wasn't until I actually got to use it and I got it in my hands that I really could appreciate where your $6,500 would be going. A little bit about this camera. So it's got 50.1 megapixels, shoots 30 frames per second stills, and does 8K at 30p and 4K at 120p. Blazing fast autofocus. It is a workhorse. Those are the standout specs from Sony. So what makes this camera worth $6,500 of your hard-earned money? So I recently got my hands on the A1 courtesy of Camera Exchange here in San Antonio, and I was able to shoot a wedding with it. I only had my hands on it for a couple of days, so I wasn't able to test out every single thing or use it to its full capabilities. But as a wedding and portrait photographer, there were certain things that I really wanted to look for to see if this camera could keep up with and if I'd be putting it in my camera bag. So one of the things that I really wanted to focus on was, no pun intended, autofocus. I really wanted to see if this camera could keep up with the autofocus for a wedding, for portraits and things like that. Being a $6,500 camera, it should be able to lock onto the eye no matter what. In my opinion, it should be able to lock onto the eye through the back of the head. But, you know, there it is what it is, you know, that maybe that technology is coming. However, I was pleasantly surprised coming from the Sony A7 III, the A7R4, and I also shoot on an A9 Mark II. The autofocus of the A1 was top notch, better than my A9 Mark II, better than the A7R4 in my opinion. Snapped on a little bit quicker, held on a little bit longer, and I was able to pull off some shots that I probably would have had less shots in focus had I been shooting on my A9 Mark II or the A7R4. And I'm not talking a whole bunch of missed shots. I'm talking about one or two here and there, but that one or two more shots that hit focus can be critical, especially in a wedding situation where things only happen once. The more shots you have in focus, the better. So I was really happy to see that probably 99% of my shots that I took were in focus. I did have a couple of shots that were either front focused or back focused, maybe on the tip of the nose or shoulder or something like that, where the subject was moving quickly. But all in all, this camera did great at autofocus, and I was very happy with it. And I'm going to show some samples here in a little bit. I want to kind of get through the specs a little bit and see what this camera really features. One of the other highlights of this camera is the flicker-free electronic shutter. This is a game changer. I can't tell you how many times I've been to a wedding or been shooting indoors and fluorescent lights, LED lights ruin the shot with the flicker. It's inevitable that you're going to run into these problems with using your electronic shutter. You know, there's certain things that I did to combat that, either shooting, I think it was at 1/125th of a second, whatever shutter speed was closest to the frequency of the lights. And then in post, sometimes I would actually brighten up where the flicker actually happens, which, you know, that's not something you want to do for, 200, 300 images. So this shutter being flicker free is game changing. It's excellent. Again, I used it at a wedding, indoors, and I can definitely tell you there were situations where I know that I would have had flicker using my A7R4 or my A7 IIIs. So it also has a 5-axis optical in-body image stabilization for 5.5 stops of stabilization. I know that Sony has had in-body stabilization for a while, and that's not, I shot a lot of video with it on the wedding. So what I do is I don't use in-body stabilization. I get all my footage, bring it into Catalyst Browse, and let the software do all of the stabilization in post. What Sony does is it'll read the gyro data from the camera and does a real good job of stabilizing the footage. What I have noticed with Sony is using the in-body stabilization. It's cool. It does a decent job, but when you look at cameras like the Canon R5, the Canon R6, the in-body stabilization on those cameras are really good. I mean, like really good. So I didn't use the in-body stabilization at this wedding because of the fact that I really don't have much confidence in Sony's stabilization as far as handheld shots. Now, if I was running on something like a Ronin, which I did do later in the night, that's fine with the stabilization in the camera, and with the Ronin, you're smooth as butter. But as far as handheld shots, which is what I started off with, I like to use Catalyst Browse in post and stabilize those shots. Okay, I wanted to walk you guys through a few of the images that we have here with the A1. So we'll kind of start with a few images. We'll walk through these real quick, and then we'll do some video. Got the bride here, and you know the eye autofocus is there. The detail is there. Everything that you need from the shot is there. Now, granted, she wasn't moving around, but she did have her friend here that was also in the shot, and the eye autofocus did move back and forth between them. She has on glasses, as you can see, but every time that I wanted to take the shot, every shot that I took of this scene right here was on my bride, even though it kept jumping back and forth. I'm not sure if that was luck, but I didn't have an issue with having her in focus when I didn't want to, because every shot was on my bride. When I was ready to take the shot, it hopped to the bride and it got the shot. So I'm not sure what or why that happened, but I got every shot that I needed. We got our bridesmaids here, and the eye autofocus latched on again to the bride, even though there's 5 ladies in this image. It latched onto the bride, and I was shooting in a wide focus, and didn't have to throw it in spot focus because it knew that I wanted the bride in focus. You know, I'm shooting at 2.8, which is pretty shallow. I probably could have opened this up to f4 to get more depth of field, but I didn't have to change it. Again, this wedding was moving fast paced, and I didn't have time to fumble with, you know, even changing a quick setting. If it could latch on, get that eye autofocus on my subject, I didn't have to change anything. Saves time. So I was able to get her in focus. Same here. She's still in focus. I was still able to get the shot without changing any settings, or you know, it latching onto somebody else or focusing on somebody else's eye. Now all of these shots are pretty much unedited, with the exception of like this one. I turned it to black and white, and some of them I boosted the either the exposure a bit, or there's one shot later that I boosted the shadows, but I'll let you know if I did any editing on them at any point. All of them have a slight edit, either a little bit bumping up the exposure, but they're pretty much straight out of camera. This shot was shot. There was a closet in the middle of the room. I shot it. I have no idea how to explain that better than a closet in the middle of the room. And I shot through the clothes and was able to get him, even though he's backlit and his face is not in the light, still locked onto his eye. Still got the shot. Side profile. I was still able to get the eye autofocus, even shooting from the side. That is also amazing to me that it's able to lock onto the eye from a side profile. Usually what I'll have to do is get a spot focus, put it, slap it on the side of his head and hope that the depth of field is wide enough for me to also get the eye in focus. It latched onto the eye, and even though I'm shooting at f4 here, it was on the eye. I still got the side of his head in focus because it was at f4, but it's because of the eye autofocus got the eye. And again, didn't have to change any settings or move around a focus point to get this shot. Anyway, so those are a few images that were taken with the A1. I want to look at a little bit of video that I was able to get with the A1. Again, this is a work in progress. It's not a final video. These are the colors straight out of camera. There is no color grade on this video, and it is not complete. So I'll probably have a minute or so. So I'll play through it so you guys can see it. So that was some footage that I pulled from the A1, all handheld. None of that work on there was from a gimbal. There was some stuff that I shot later on in the night that was on a Ronin RS2, but all of this footage was handheld and then brought into Catalyst Browse and stabilized after the fact. All right, guys, I hope you learned something. That was my review of the A1 for the little amount of time that I had it. Great camera. I'm definitely getting one. This camera has pretty much everything that you need built into one. I am getting rid of my A7R4 to make room for this camera. It will basically take the place of the A7R4 for me. If you want to place a pre-order for one, check out Camera Exchange. They will get you on a pre-order and get you your camera as soon as they are available. They are still back ordered, but they are coming, and so if you want one, get on that list ASAP. Again, my name is TJ. You can check me out at Tallymark Media. My Instagram is at Tallymark Media. Follow me on there. I'll follow you back. Otherwise, you can email me info@tallymarkmedia.com. But that is it until next time. I will see you guys later.